you want access to this podcast earlier than any other viewer, consider becoming a channel member. All tiers get access to this podcast earlier than people who are not channel members, and it does help out this channel a lot. So if you do want to get all of the news updates, discussions, and market information for Flesh and Blood before anybody else, please make sure to become a channel member today. This podcast is also sponsored by Fyendal's Collection. Fyendal's Collection is a collection database website dedicated to showing you the market analytics of all things Flesh and Blood. Looking to track an entire master set? Fyendal's Collection has you covered. It's as easy as creating a collection in their collection tab and choosing which set you'd like to see in all of its glory. There's even an option to only add one of each equipment and cold foil, which really excites my set collecting heart. As a free user, you can upload your collection here to have a great look into what you have accomplished so far in Flesh and Blood. But if you wanted to track your collection in the secondary market, becoming a subscriber really ramps up that analytics portion of Fyendal's Collection. For a measly $3 a month, you get to see the gain and loss each of your collections receive, so you can accurately determine the worth of your cardboard, as far as dollars are concerned. Subscribers also get access to the Market Trends and EV Tracking tabs too. Market Trends is a great way for you to see what's hot in the Flesh and Blood market, and may even give you some insight into what you should pick up for your own collection. The EV Tracker tool is another great example of the data that Fyendal's Collection can provide. Tired of wondering if you're going to get hosed if you buy a booster box or even a case? Well, the EV Tracker is constantly updated to show what your estimated value is on each Flesh and Blood sealed product, which is a great thing for sealed collectors or even people who are just looking to get into the single selling business. Again, all of these tools and more are available to you for just $3 a month. But how about a free month's trial of the site before you settle in? By going to the subscription section and choosing a promo code, you can enter my affiliate code ASHTCG, all capitalized and all one word, and you will get a month of Fyendal's Collection subscription service for free. So if you've been looking for a new card collecting database for your master set collections, or even just some small little collections of your favorite pieces of Flesh and Blood, look no further than Fyendal's Collection. Don't forget to use the promo code ASHTCG when subscribing to receive a free month of service. Thank you so much to Fyendal's Collection for sponsoring this channel, and let's get back to the video. Welcome on in, my Ashwings, to episode 16 of the Common Language Podcast. That's right, I am your host, Alex, or Ashwings TCG, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about some Hunted spoilers, and really just kind of how I feel about the overall set right now as of a couple days before Christmas. We are looking at some spoilers here, and I just really wanted to go ahead and take a quick look and see just kind of give you my thoughts and my feelings on it, and the overall theme and feel I feel about the set. So with the Hunted, obviously, we got a lot of introduction into some new Royal Draconic heroes, Syndra and Fang, who are going to be coming out in the set. And the other hero, Arachne, kind of was a mystery, right, for a long time. And right now, as of recording this video, all 6 of Arachne's Agents of Chaos, 6 Demi-Heroes that you have to run in Arachne, Marionette, or Arachne Web of Deceit, depending on who you're playing. And with these heroes, I'm very curious as to the overall concept. Not something that I've put a ton of thought into in entirety. I like every single one of these Demi-Heroes, but more importantly, it's the fact that we're going to be seeing Demi-Heroes in Commoner. And that is going to be very, very interesting because these Demi-Heroes prove to be quite powerful when it comes to what they bring to the table. Now, of course, with it being the Chaos talent, we are unsure what kind of Chaos commons we're going to be getting, what kind of Chaos or assassin rare equipment we're going to be getting. We're not even sure what the daggers do yet. So there's tons of opportunity for change from my own perspective as we go on. But with this being the very first time we are able to see Demi-Heroes as tokens being put into Commoner of all places, it is, for one, going to be a very interesting thing for Commoner in general. And strictly being the fact that every one of these Demi-Heroes is going to have a Marvel, right? And the hero is going to have a Marvel. So Arachne, Web of Deceit, is going to have a Marvel version of themselves. And then also all 6 of the Arachne Demi-Heroes are going to have Marvels of themselves as well. Therefore, this is going to be a set where you're going to be able to play a ton of Marvels in it, much like how the Mystic Heroes are able to play all of their Marvel Common Transcend cards in Commoner, except these guys are all going to be hero-centric. It's all going to be hero-centric for this. So I think it's really cool. Everybody who likes to like kind of trick out their Commoner decks is always such a fun thing to see. And I think overall, I wanted to kind of go over Arachne since we don't know a whole lot about the Draconic stuff just yet, but we're going to learn more in January, I'm assuming. But I wanted to kind of go over what we know now, what we might be looking to find out in Commoner perspective, but also for CC, and kind of like take a look at those things there too. So let's go ahead and let's just dive right in, right? Let's take a look at what we've got here. Obviously, our whole list we've got now. Arachne Marionette, easily one of the coolest looking heroes. I actually really like Arachne Web of Deceit. I think that this card is like so cool. I love the daggers. I love how the hair looks coming out of this. I would genuinely cosplay this. Genuinely, I would cosplay this. My legs don't look like that, but I would genuinely cosplay this. I think this is such a sick look. I would love to see what the other half of their mask looks like. And it's just like so interesting, right? Because what we're assuming is like all this like blood that's happening in the background and like the bloody webs and the chaos border for the hero is just so cool too. But let's talk about what this might even put into case for Commoner, right? We're going to talk about this from a Commoner perspective because this is the common language and we like to talk about Commoner in most cases. So I'm going to go ahead and do exactly that, in which I am going to pretty much just go over these things and see how I feel they're going to affect Commoner. So Arachne Web of Deceit, their ability says your attacks with stealth that are attacking a marked hero get +1, and when this hits, this gets go again. And at the beginning of your end phase, if an opponent is marked, you become a random agent of chaos. So at the end of your phase, if an opponent's marked, you're going to pretty much roll a d6. And as you roll a d6, you're going to turn into one of these 6 Demi-Heroes here. And so with one of these 6 Demi-Heroes, it is a gamble, right? But I don't think any of these heroes have a downside. And that's where it gets very interesting. Effectively, you're just going to be sculpting your hand in a different way every single time. But when you take a look at Arachne Black Widow, this Agent of Chaos is the number 1. It says once per turn attack reaction, you can discard an assassin card. Target assassin attack gains +3. And if it has stealth, it gets when this hits a hero, they banish a card from their hand. Now, banishing a card from hand in Commoner, freaking insane, right? Obviously, it can help some heroes, but in most cases, this is really, really good to be able to just be like, cool, okay, if it hits, do a thing. It's pretty good. Then we have Arachne Funnel Web. This is number 2. Once per turn attack reaction, discard an assassin card. Target assassin attack gets +3. If it has stealth, it gets when it hits a hero, you banish a card in their arsenal. So, arsenal destruction in Commoner. Super cool. Again, like we don't normally see that. And so having the ability to do this is going to be really, really good. You have Arachne Orb Weaver as the third one. Now, this one is still completely different to us. We don't know what this is because there is a token on here called the Graphene Chelicerae. Graphene Chelicerae are, from what I've seen, graphene is like lighter graphite, and Chelicerae are the fangs of like insects, or like the spiders, right? Like their fangs. So effectively like a soft steel fang in the sense. And what these might be are token like throwing daggers that you can get, and they'll cost you one less to activate. So obviously they're going to probably cost one for you to activate their ability. But at once per turn instant speed, you can discard an assassin card, equip a Graphene Chelicerae token, and then your next attack with stealth this turn gets +3. So we don't know what a Graphene Chelicerae is yet at this moment. Pretty cool though, because if it ends up being something to like throw at your opponent to mark them, that's pretty good to be able to just create this. And at instant speed, you get to create them, but you equip it and then you get to attack with it. The problem is that are you only able to equip a Graphene Chelicerae if you don't have a weapon in that slot? If it's a weapon at all, right? If it's a dagger and it's supposed to do that, it's whatever. But if we're talking like it's like a Silverwind Shuriken, where it's an item that you can destroy and do the thing with, then it's completely different. Because equipping an item usually is what you do there. So who knows, right? Arachne Orb Weaver, definitely one of the most mysterious of them. Arachne Redback is the fourth one. Once per turn attack reaction, discard an assassin card. Target assassin attack gets +3. If it has stealth, it gets go again. This is just immediate go again. So discard an assassin card, assassin attack gets +3, and go again. This is going to be huge because, again, Commoner is only 20 health. And being able to have stealth cards with on hits get go again into something else that might be just as powerful, this is a lot. And even more specifically, if you're running 1 power stealth cards, you're running a lot of blues. And if you're running a lot of blues, you can then pitch a blue to come in with something else after this happens. These will then come in for breakpoints because they're normally at 1 power. It's very interesting. Arachne Tarantula is kind of like a weird, like, it gives you like that turn in which you can just go, cool, my daggers make sense. Because whenever a dagger you own hits a hero, they lose 1 life. Now, of course, again, if this is a Graphene Chelicerae token and that's a dagger item, then this pairs really well with that. Because it is a dagger you will own that hits a hero, they lose a life, right? But you can also discard an assassin card to have target dagger get +3, which means that when you know your opponent's in tarantula form, you know, it's very face up that you're going to want to block for 4 on your opponent's dagger. But, you know, there's tons of the only daggers that are really available for Arachne right now in this mode is Spider's Bite. That's it. So it's still really costly to attack with a dagger with Spider's Bite, but having to pay 2 and then discard a card to have it come in for 4, that might be better because now it really incentivizes your opponent to want to block. And more importantly, Spider's Bite has piercing, so blocking with armor still becomes incredibly ineffective. And then, of course, they lose life on hit, so nuts. And then finally, Arachne Trapdoor. Now, Arachne Trapdoor is probably the weirdest of them all, but it does force you to play a certain style in that way, because every single one of these have you discard an assassin card, and then target assassin card gets whatever, right? So obviously most of your deck is probably going to be assassin cards. And the good news is that with Arachne Trapdoor, there are traps that are assassin cards, such as Inertia Trap, Blood Rot Pox Trap, or Blood Rot Trap. I think it's Blood Rot Trap, and then Frailty Trap. All of those traps are common, and they're also assassin traps. But Arachne Trapdoor says when you become this, you may search your deck for a card, banish it face down, then shuffle. If it's a trap, you may play it until the start of your next turn. So you're playing it face down, which means you quite literally can't play it otherwise. And you can only play it if it's a trap. So if it's a trap, you may play it until the start of your next turn. So in this situation, you're looking for an additional trap. You're thinning your deck of traps. And also it's at the beginning of your next turn, which means you're going to get to block with it on that turn. So it's a guaranteed 3 additional block in a chain on that turn. So even if you're running only 6 traps, I mean, again, the odds of you running into odds of you turning into Arachne Trapdoor like 3 times in a game are, they're the same as everybody else. But if Arachne Trapdoor comes up, you're going to want to make sure to have traps. The good news is, though, is that if you know you do not have traps, you can go ahead and choose to not search your deck for a card and banish it. The difference here is that in some cases, you might want to banish a card that maybe just doesn't do anything very well, and a card you might not want to see in the second cycle. And you can banish it face down to bluff your opponent, because with it being face down, your opponent can't look at it. You can look at it, your opponent can't look at it. And because your opponent can't look at it, they don't know what it is. It could be a trap. So with that being the case, your opponent's play pattern may be completely different, and they may just completely run around the fact of being like, well, you obviously put a trap face down. And if you put a trap face down, I'm going to lose out on value by coming in with this big attack. So I'm just going to come in with something smaller. And then when you end your turn, you go, okay, cool. Guess that's it. Like, I'm not going to do anything. They're going to, they fall for the bluff. So it's a very interesting structure of hero, and I'm really, really curious to see what fun things are going to come in for Commoner, for the Chaos talent, and also for Assassin in this set. Now, the unfortunate side about that is that we're probably not going to see many of the commons that are coming into the set until the world premiere, simply being because a lot of these Majestics and Legendaries are going to be released before the world premiere, and then the commons and rares are going to be kind of figured out as that goes on. But I certainly look forward to a lot of them here. We do know there are a couple, right? Defang the Dragon and Extinguish the Flames. These are both cards that are, wholly available as commons. Although, I'm going to be honest, these cards are absolutely going to be limited cards, right? So very limited in their situation. And then after that, we're really looking at whether or not there are any kind of common chaos cards. No other chaos cards have been shown outside of Brody's card, Spurlocked. And this is obviously Majestic, so not anything we need to worry about. And one of the worst parts is that we still don't know how to mark individuals. We don't know how an individual becomes marked. This is really what's going to determine the effectiveness of Arachne and Commoner, because if you can guarantee to mark somebody at least once every other turn, you're in a pretty good spot to be able to still do a bunch of crazy things. But if you can't find a way to mark your opponent, then you're kind of just stuck as Arachne. And even still, stuck as just Arachne Web of Deceit is pretty good. Attacks with stealth that are attacking a marked hero get +1, and when this hits, they get go again. So if you're attacking a marked hero, you get +1, and when it hits, you get go again. The downside with marked, with like the concept of being marked, is that the marked status goes away when an opponent hits you. So if I am attacking a marked target for my first attack, and they let that hit, and I have no way to then mark them again, I don't get to switch. But if they block it all out and they're still marked, I get to essentially evolve into this other hunter, and then have that hunter present even more damage until, that marked status goes away, because you're going to want to deal a little bit of extra damage there. So it's kind of like an evolution, right? You start as somebody who wants to attack marked heroes. They get some additional stuff there, but you're guaranteed a +1, and when this hits, they get go again on the stealth attacks for Arachne Web of Deceit. Now, real quick, let's go ahead and take a quick look at the cards that are available in stealth for this. So let's take a look at Stealth Rarity Common. What are we looking at here for this? With Stealth Common cards, we have things like Prowl. This is probably going to see a lot of play because the next attack with Stealth you play this combat chain gets +1. So not only do you get Arachne's ability of if you're attacking a marked target, this will come in for 4. And then if it hits, you get Go Again. So that's the ability there. Prowl could very well see some good play in regards to presenting breakpoints. You also, of course, have things like Razor's Edge, a 0-cost, attack reaction that says card with Stealth gains +3. So it's essentially cut to the chase, but for Stealth cards, it's really good. Isolate, super powerful card for Assassin because it's got Stealth and it's got Dominate. Dominate is huge because if you're trying to get damage off because of certain things, Isolate's going to be crazy. I might even say this is a run all 6 copies in Commoner because of how insanely useful this is going to be no matter what form you're in. Because Dominate means you can only block with 1 card from hand. And so if you don't have that D-React in Arsenal, you kind of just have to block with your armor. And eventually it's just going to get to the point where it's not going to be able to be blocked out. Especially when you have your Arachne pumping everything when they end up becoming an Agent of Chaos. Malign, of course, super good because guess what? Enigma, really popular in Commoner. So Malign's going to be pretty great into that matchup there. We, of course, have Infect, Wither, and Sedate. All of them being able to give very, very powerful on-hit ailments. Like Inertia is really, really good in Commoner because it allows your opponent to not set up an arsenal. Wither is great into Ira because it means their Kodachis pretty much come in for nearly nothing. And then Infect is really good into just dealing that initial damage because most people want to use their whole hand. And especially with Enigma, if Enigma doesn't pay into this and they destroy, they have to take 2 damage, they're going to use their ward for that, which is usually just the 1 spectral shield they have on the board. But then we take a look at all of the stealth cards that came in Part the Mistveil, right? In Part the Mistveil, we had things like Desires of Flesh. When it banishes an attack action card, you gain a life. So now you have life gain abilities in stealth cards, and you still get to banish the top card of their deck, kind of like a contract card. Same goes for Mind's Desire and Impulsive Desire. They all get to, this is for non-attack actions. This is for instance and reactions. Same deal. Then Pick to Pieces, another damage that would be dealt by this can't be prevented, and you can pump it even further if you've played an attack reaction, this Chain Link. Turns out, those Agents of Chaos, I think it's technically 4 of them. 4 of them all have attack reactions, but 3 of them are only on assassin cards, and 1 of them is for daggers, 1 of them's an instant speed for Orb Weaver, and the other one's for traps. So 3 out of the 6 can allow to turn on this Pick to Pieces, give it +3, whatever effect it is based on the Agent of Chaos you have, another +1 because of Pick to Pieces, which means this could come in for 7. You could just play this card, and then for 1 card to discard, you can get this for 7, and damage can't be prevented. So this is going to be pretty good. And then Bonds of Memory is super great to kind of get those cards out of the graveyard and into the banish zone. Now, you don't have to worry about CYB in Commoner, but Bonds of Memory is still going to be something you might want to look for, because if the Chaos ability is able to manipulate the banish zone in any way, or you're trying to get stuff kind of set up to where they're going to have to take some blood debt, then Bonds of Memory might be not a bad one to pick. Not to mention you also still get to banish the top card of their deck. So, pretty good. But these are the stealth cards that are in common currently. And even while these are pretty good, I would say the MST ones probably being significantly better than the Outsiders ones, there's still use for every single one of these. Then not to mention the fact that you just have the generic assassin stuff too, right? Like you just have the regular assassin cards in this, right? So you can still, obviously you have Blood Rot Trap. You've got all of your other contract cards, because apparently there's going to be some kind of contract support coming in the set too, maybe. So, and the reason we see that is because there is a contract and stealth on this one card. Now, obviously, this is, again, limited. This is for limited because you're looking to specifically hit a certain hero. So probably not going to be meta relevant, but there's still contract cards you can play. So you can still play a bunch of 0-for-4s, right? You can come in for a Desires of Flesh. You can discard an assassin card, give it +3, go again, and then send a Fleece the Frail for 4. So that's 10 damage with 2 on hits, both of them being banished top cards of your deck. It's pretty good. Unfortunately, you don't get to use any of the Mystic Assassin stuff in here because that's strictly for new. But overall, I mean, you get to see Mask of Malicious Manifestations as a thing here. You could even make Mask of Shifting Perspectives a big deal. Whenever a dagger hits this turn, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck if you do draw a card. This might be powerful for if you're in Tarantula form. You can utilize that. Or if you want to play Mask of Malicious Manifestations, you can pay a resource to put a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom of your deck to destroy this, and then reveal cards from the top until you reveal an attack action, put it in your hand, and then shuffle. So this is, for one resource, you can pretty much Crown of Seeds, but you get to tutor almost for a Crown of Seeds. Pretty good if you're looking for an assassin attack that maybe you don't have in your hand. Not bad. Of course, you do have access to things like Plunge too. When this hits your next dagger attack this turn gets +1. So another dagger-centric attack if need be. We have Slay the Scholars. We've got Sack the Shifty. And then we even have things like Virulent Touch if you're really trying to get spicy with it. This can be played from Arsenal, so you can follow up with this from Arsenal. And then when the Chain Link resolves, if Virulent Touch is defended by a card from hand, you create a Bloodrot Pox token under the defending hero's control. So the reds of that are probably pretty good because not only do they count as red assassin attacks or assassin attacks in general, and they don't have stealth, which is like the one downside, but this is going to be the follow-up to your stealth card. You know, you're probably always attacking with a dagger first or a stealth card, and then you're coming in with something else. So that's pretty much where it's looking for. And whether that be a Slay the Scholars, a Virulent Touch, you could even run the Short and Sharp if you're trying to do like more fun little things here for their power. If you're trying to pump up like a bunch of the blue power cards. And then, of course, you even have the 1-cost 5s if you want to follow it up with something like that, like coming in with a lot more damage. I would say Cut to the Chase maybe not the best pick, but Cut to the Chase can be used if you're trying to play contract cards and also stealth cards, because if it's stealth card into contract card and stealth card into contract card, at some point you're going to have a Cut to the Chase in hand and you can pump that contract card and make it even more powerful. So very, very exciting stuff here. I do really think that with what we've seen, I'm curious how this is going to work out overall for Commoner. Because Commoner, while still very powerful in its own right, a lot of this stuff ends up costing a lot. These assassin attack reactions cost a card, and if you have a Frostbite, you still have to pay 1 to discard a card, which costs you 2 cards in your hand now, because there's no Fyendal Spring Tunic in there. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun one, I think. But I think overall the aesthetic of this and all of these heroes is just insanely cool. And I'm certainly excited to see how this is going to level. Again, I enjoy the concept of playing this hero and how they work. But I do really want to figure out how we're going to mark people. If marking people is easy to do with the common cards that are provided, then I would say that's going to be one of the better choices overall. But if it turns out that marking heroes is really hard to do, and it's like a rare and majestic thing, and like even like maybe a legendary arms piece that says mark your opponent at the end of every one of your turns or something, that is very much so way out of the realm of commoner, right? And then at that point, it just becomes really kind of rough. But again, with a new talent entering the fray, we don't know, right? It is chaotic in the fact that we do not know what this talent will bring to the commoner format. We don't even know what it's going to bring to the classic constructed format. But for the commoner format, we're just not sure. But all I know is that this is going to be probably one of the coolest looking commoner decks ever. So I'm imagining all of these marvels are going to go for an insane amount, unless, of course, Arachne just sucks, right? And if Arachne sucks, then I'm their only fan, right? That's just what it is. But I think it's going to be a very, very fun hero to play. I'm curious to see what else is going to come out for the hero and for this stuff, because as we take a look at this, right, I mean, like, there's still so many commons here that have yet to be taken a look at. There's so many more Majestics and rares over here, and there's probably a few Majestics and even legendaries in this slot here, as well as new equipment. And then, of course, we run into all the other stuff for the Draconic heroes. Now, the funny thing is you think I'd be actually happier about the Draconic heroes. Syndra is probably the coolest one out of all of them, right? Because she's like Phi, and you can equip daggers, so like you can swing daggers. Maybe your daggers break on hit, and if they break on hit, you go ahead and you just pay 3 after doing, 3 Draconic attacks, and then you get to equip them again, and then you get to swing 2 of them. I'd imagine Syndra might have... The one thing I'm thinking is that there's going to be a pair of Draconic daggers, and there's going to be a pair of Chaos daggers. Maybe. We at least know there are Draconic daggers because of Syndra's ability, right? Equip up to 2 Draconic daggers from your graveyard. So unless, Fang is going to be having Royal daggers, and then Syndra is only going to care about Draconic daggers, and then there's going to be Chaos daggers, we're not sure what's going to happen here. But I think it's going to be a fun time. I still think Warrior's in a really weird spot. I'm not sure that any of these cards are like the nastiest thing. Like, Agility Stance seems pretty good for limited, but again, this is an aura that you have to play on one turn and then wait and hope that you don't get blown out by your opponent, and then you can go ahead and attack with your daggers and give them go again. But that also makes me think this is a sword, not a dagger. So it's very interesting because your daggers, most daggers in the game, actually all daggers in the game, aside from like technically Quicksilver dagger, don't have go again, or have go again already, I should say. They have go again already. So the fact that this is going to care about daggers that do not have go again makes me think that either Quicksilver dagger is going to get a reprint in the set, or there's going to be a new like 1 cost deal 3 damage dagger with no go again. And like that's your whole turn, is like a pay 1 to attack for 3. And then like maybe you get this. And then if you get all 3 of these stances out and you get like the Exodia going, you power stance, agility stance, flurry stance, then you have each of those daggers, they'll get +1, go again, and then you can attack each time with additional with a dagger. Then it'd be like 4, 4, 4, 4 for like a blue and a red, a blue and a tunic resource, right? So a lot of value there. The Draconic stuff, this just cares about if you've attacked a mark hero, create a fealty token. All 3 of these heroes care about marking their opponent. So it's got to be a pretty common thing to do, is marking your opponent. It should be like chaff, like draft chaff commons, in order for you to draft here, in order for you to mark your opponent. So I'm unsure, but as we know more, we'll continue on. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this take. I'm very curious to see how these heroes work. I don't know that Fang is going to be the best in commoner. I think Syndra might have some pretty good legs. Aggro tends to do that in commoner, tends to do pretty well. Take a look at Dash and Phi. I think that they have some pretty good spots to be in, but we're not sure, right? All those stances that I just talked about with Fang, rares. So we don't get to use them in commoner. And I mean, like, you could say that maybe for the set, you know, for the Drakai, for the Emperor, for the Realm cards. They're all commons, but they just, when they attack a marked hero, create a fealty token. I'm only assuming the daggers will mark. If the daggers don't mark, there needs to be a way in which, like, it needs to just be like a token that you can put on the board that just says at the end of every one of your turns, mark an opponent's hero. But I'm unsure. There's a lot that can go into it. There's a lot that can change. With January coming by, obviously we still have to wait until next year, like the middle of next month. We have to wait in order for us to learn anything else. But I'm very excited to see where it's going to do for the commoner format. I think for the past 3 sets, there's been a hero or some style of play that has crept itself up into top tables for the commoner gold foil formats. You know, we had Olympia and their Decimator Great Axe builds that brought themselves to the top tables during heavy hitters. Enigma does and is doing really well in commoner right now, in just being able to play Reality Refractor and come in for, you know, 8 every turn pretty much. And then you have I think Aurora is probably doing the best out of all of them, but I know Verdance is doing pretty well too, being able to heal a whole bunch and then come in with really powerful decompose attacks with like pummels and stuff. I think she's got a pretty good spot there, but I know Aurora was doing very well. And yeah, we just kind of take a look at it and go from there. But for now, I'm excited to see where the set's going to go. And we're going to do a full like commoner review when the set actually comes out. And we know a lot more. And then I can just start getting super giddy about wanting to play a different hero in commoner. And then, of course, I'll have more builds for you guys, too. So we'll see about that. But thank you guys so much for watching. I think that's going to be it for today's episode of The Common Language. We've talked enough about commoner and how the hunted is going to affect it. I'm really, really curious to see how these Demi-Heroes are going to affect the format. You imagine they're probably not going to affect it very well, but Assassin, you know, New has certainly been doing pretty good, but she's not quite there. So I'm curious whether or not this is going to be the Assassin to like make or break the format and really assist in just making like the most degenerate way to play commoner, which is being able to say, cool, +3, go again. +3, banish a card from hand. +3, banish a card from arsenal. And just provide a ton of value in just like the most assassin attack heavy commoner deck we've seen. So very excited to see it. And I hope that you all are excited to see it too. But let me know if there's anything from the hunted that you're excited to try out in commoner. I'd love to hear from you guys down there in the comments. And while you're leaving that comment, also make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. And then if you want to support the channel even further, you can become a channel member. Channel members do get access to this episode a week earlier than everybody else does, and all of our episodes of The Common Language a week earlier. On top of it, you get access to emotes, loyalty badges, and then we're eventually going to do some channel member giveaways too. We've already done one for the Scarf promo that Common Foil had won, so that's pretty cool there. We're hoping to do a lot more. This is just for, you know, a thanks from me to you to supporting the channel, and I'm hoping that we can continue to grow as a community and really just shine a big light on Flesh and Blood and really show how much fun this game is. No matter what format you're playing, it's just such a great time. So thank you all so much for watching. I really, really appreciate your support. And I hope you continue having fun in the Flesh and Blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in the next episode of the Common Language Podcast.